Get started with Councilman Haas to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started, we'll go ahead and do the virtual meeting message.
Thank you to everyone who is joining us. For members of the public who would like to participate in this meeting, we have some instructions to help if you are new to using Microsoft Teams. Notice the icons in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. The second one from the left is a chat bubble icon, indicated with the yellow arrow. If you wish to be recognized by the mayor to speak, please choose the bubble icon to enter the meeting chat. It will appear on the right-hand side of your screen. First, enter your name, address, and phone number in the chat, followed by the topic you wish to discuss. If you wish to speak at any point during the meeting, you can choose the hand icon, also located in the upper right-hand corner indicated with the green arrow. It's the equivalent of raising your hand. Then, the mayor, acting chairperson, or moderator will ask you to speak at the appropriate time. We'll give everyone a few moments now to enter their name, address, phone number, and topic they'd like to address with the council in the meeting chat. We will ask in the interest of time that people not repeat a previous speaker, instead state you agree with their point or disagree with their point. Each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes. Any extension of that time is at the sole discretion of the mayor or meeting chairperson for the council rules. The moderator will note those joining by phone for the mayor/chairperson. The fact that the meeting is online does not excuse poor behavior. The mayor retains the right to have people removed from the meeting as stated in the council rules.
Present.
Counselor Gorley.
Present.
Counselor Coleman. Counselor Sanchez.
Here.
Counselor Richards.
Present.
Let the record show I have 6 present with 1 absent. Councilor Coleman is missing this evening due to a personal matter. At this time, I ask for a motion for approval of absence.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second by roll call, please.
Mayor Mahler.
Yes.
Counselor Gerson.
Yes.
Counselor Trask.
Yes.
Counselor Gorley.
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez.
Yes.
Counselor Richards.
Yes.
Let the record show 6 ayes, no nays, approval of Councilor Coleman's absence. Before I get on the consent agenda, I want to make sure that I make a note that under old business, first part, I'm going to be adding an amendment to the old business, letting council to make a motion to approve for a letter to be sent to county commissioners regarding the sale of the mill property on February 4th. We'll get to that in a few minutes. That said, I'll go ahead and move on to consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion second by roll call, please.
Yes.
Counselor Trask.
Yes.
Counselor Gorley.
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez.
Yes.
Counselor Richards.
Yes.
Mayor Mahler.
Yes. Let the record show 6 ayes, no nays, with 1 absent.
I prefer the Beach Boys.
Thank you, Brandon, for that. Moving on to recognition of visitors and hearing of petitions. Before we get into that, we have the honor of having a new police officer this evening to be sworn into our police department. So if we want to go ahead and step forward.
There you go. Am I on now? Great. Well, I have the privilege this evening to introduce to you our newest hire, Jake Custadio. And we have his wife, Morgan, in the back. And just want to say we are super excited to have him on. And we look forward to seeing what he does here in our community. So we're excited, Jake, to have you here. Just a little bit about Jake, a little history. So he comes from a small coastal community in California, Morro Bay. Grew up there and was interested in computer science, computer networking. So he went to school for that. Decided once he got into the career field that this wasn't really for him and had a calling to be a first responder. And so now he has pursued that and moved up here to Oregon from California in 2019. And we're the first agency to hire him. So we're pretty excited. So there he is. We were ready to swear him in.
All right, so Jake, if you can grab your certificate there, and Jason's going to put the microphone down, and if you kind of get a little close to it, there we go. Perfect. Yeah. If you could raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jake Castadio.
I, Jake Castadio.
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America.
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America.
The Constitution and laws of the State of Oregon.
The Constitution and laws of the State of Oregon.
The laws and ordinances of the City of Sweet Home.
The laws and ordinances of the City of Sweet Home.
And the rules and regulations of the Sweet Home Police Department.
And the rules and regulations of the Sweet Home Police Department.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office to which I have been appointed.
And I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office to which I have been appointed.
In and for the City of Sweet Home.
In and for the City of Sweet Home.
According to law and to the best of my ability.
According to law and the best of my ability.
Congratulations. So if you want to go ahead and sign those.
Well, Mr. Castillo, on behalf of the city of Sweet Home, welcome aboard and welcome to our beautiful community.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm going to move on with recognition of visitors and hearing petitions, and I'm actually going to kind of call in some order here because there's one topic that's going to be lengthy versus the others. At this time, I'm going to ask that a Mr. England come forth and name and address for the record, and also for the record to be known, I have received a letter from this gentleman that we'll make copies and make sure the council has a copy of it. Okay.
My name is Larry Anglin. I live at 1107 Ironwood Street.
I'm sorry, Larry, can you,
Uh,
I gotta
Mike,
sit down
sure.
and get you speaking into the microphone.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
It's all ready to go for you.
My name is Larry Anglin. I live at 1107 Ironwood Street here in Sweet Home. Been here for a little over 14 years. And the reason I'm here tonight, this is about my 6th trip down here, and it's getting to be really annoying. And I know you're getting tired of seeing me here, but we've got to have our street fixed down there. We've got potholes that are over 6 inches deep and about 3 and 4 feet wide. And my wife and I went out the other day when it was raining and counted holes, 75 of them in about a 250-foot long street, which Ironwood empties into about a 80-foot strip of 10th Avenue. And you can't drive a car down there without hitting it. It's impossible. And they're deep enough that we're going to start breaking rims and tires in them. And I'd like to see about getting a street redone, not just fill the holes, because they've tried that a few times. The gravel in there lasts about 4 days and it's gone. I don't know if it sinks down or flops out or what, but it's no longer there. They come out here about 3 weeks ago and put some dry asphalt in it, and it lasted about 2 days and it was gone. Street needs to be taken up and done right, because if we put another layer on top of it, it's going to flood to everybody's yard worse than it already is. The water runs out and a lot of it puddles into the people's yard. and people just are having their yard run into because people are trying to get around the holes or going through yards. And we just need to get this done. You know, I've tried to be patient about it, but I'm at my wit's end. And I've got a letter that we made several copies of so that most of you can see it. All of them, but just a few people that I got a hold of on that street have signed. And they wanted to come down here, but there's no sense in all of us coming down here since one of us can do the representation. And there's no sense in them coming down here screaming and hollering. I can do enough of that. But anyway, I'd just like to get something done. Like I say, I've been down here every year now for 6 years on the same thing, and nothing is done to that street. And I drive school bus, and I've been all around the town, this end of town, putting new streets in, new asphalt and everything else. This end of town, nothing. And this street down here is the worst street that I've been on in this town. I've been on almost all of them, up and down, in and out, and around all the neighborhoods. We have no curbs in there. The drains that are in there are plugged up. They don't take any water or anything else. It's just getting to be a quagmire and a mess. And I'd like to see about getting it done, Mr. Mayor.
My question is to Greg. Clarification, is this street an unimproved development area?
It does have some old pavement, oil mat, and I don't know what the surfaces are, but it's in bad shape, and I would agree with him. It's also in the avenues, and it's subject to a new water line. And so as soon as we get that water line done, then we will be paving that street. Right now, we're finishing design for 8th Street, 9th Street, and Alder. We'll be doing 4th Street next, which is in design, along with Nandina, 12th to 15th.
So this was on the list.
It's on the list. It's
Okay.
just our capacity of funding is and as soon as we get to the line and we get that replaced, then they'll get the pavement right behind it.
Well, we've been hearing this now for 3 years. And last time I was here, well, we're going to do this in first, then we'll work our way down. Well, that hasn't happened. And 2 years ago, they were going to put in water lines, and that didn't happen then. So I don't know, you know, I just keep hearing the same song over and over again, and nothing seems to be developing down there. I've been to your office 2 or 3 times. I've talked to a couple of the guys down there. Oh, yeah, we'll be out and take a look at it. I mean, looking at it ain't going to do a thing good. I
Well,
need
until we
something
get
done.
capital funding, really the only thing we can do is go out and try to maintain what we got. The problem with that road is just horrible shape.
Yeah,
It
it
needs
is.
to be repaved. And so funding would help with that. And I'd love to fix your street. I would love to fix all of them. But we do know that it's got old water line, probably 80 years old in there. That needs to come out of the ground. I know your guys' water quality is probably not good either. So we got to get that water line out, and then it doesn't make sense to put in a street and then come back and cut that street, because then you're going to have potholes again.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that's where we're at, and I want to help. It's on the list. It's coming. I could probably, but it's still a crystal ball of how much funding we get every year to how much work we can actually get done. And
Well, it's
that's
not like
basically
it's
what
not-
it's boiled down
It's
to.
not like it's a half a mile or even a quarter mile of a street. We're looking at from here maybe to the center of the street out here.
Yeah,
long,
I've been
and then
down it many
about Another
times.
60 feet of 10th Street off the end of it.
Mr. England, we'll go ahead and just address here.
Okay.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I will get with Greg on this matter. I'll give you my word on this.
Okay.
I can't give you a timeline because I need to find out some things regarding this.
All right.
Okay. So if we have a problem, it does come down to funding. I mean, I wish I had all the funds in the world to do every street.
I understand.
And we're not we're prioritizing, but on the same token, it's based on funding too.
Yeah.
So I will get with Greg and we'll see in what we're looking at, and we will respond to you.
All
Okay.
right. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, I'm gonna go ahead and bring up, Mr. Shemmick. You here?
He's got it, yeah.
He's just gonna do
The
it.
rest of them are all agenda items. He's gonna be the shedding.
Okay.
And these are all gonna speak
What?
on the agenda item right here, FAC.
What's that?
It was my apologies, Mr. Shamik. It got mixed in with,
Oh.
with your thing got mixed in with visitors.
I mean, I'll do it now.
Well, the thing of it is the next up is a topic, is regards to the homeless. We've got a lot of folks here this evening. Basically, I know we have, the Duck Hall HOA here. We have several people here. I would ask that I'm going to have people come forth. I'm going to limit to 3 minutes. Those that are coming with Duck Hall, I would appreciate if you have maybe 1 or 2 representatives that will come up and represent that group, not everybody. And also, I would appreciate if we don't repeat the same, thing. Let's try to do something, not the same questions or the same comments. So we, in appreciation of time, we can get through this. Also, keep in mind that tomorrow at 6:30 here at City Hall, we are going to have a question and answer session regarding the homeless situation, and we'll have more probably answers to questions then. So everybody is welcome to come to that and to listen in and ask questions. So keep that in mind. So at this time, anybody who would like to come forth to be heard, please come forth before the council. Yeah.
Look at my notes. That is my home. My name is Vicki Seeley. I've lived here since 1982, somewhere 83. My home looks directly at my backyard, directly at where the homeless camp is supposed to be. I can't breathe, sorry. I noticed a lot of vehicles out there, like they're doing some preliminary work, and I wondered if it's not settled yet, why are they doing preliminary work, which goes to this gentleman's statement before to the guy about the road. Why would you do something and then stop and redo or not do it and spend the money? Secondly, today, I have 6 grandchildren. 2 are highly autistic. Today I went down to the homeless camp myself because I like all sides. Most of them don't want to come down here. Direct quote. You mean the place with all the rules? I said, well, it has some rules. They thought I was representing the place, I guess, at first. And the guy said, another guy said, oh, you mean the place that'll be like a jail, but no heat, no TV, and no 3 meals a day. Hey, and I said, well, how many of you would end up back here? And, several said yes. So why don't you just put it where they're at now? I've been here. I had a business on Long Street in the 90s to early 2000s. We were told how the city was going to clean up and downtown was going to be thriving and everything like that. And I put a couple $100,000 into a store. Never happened. I think if you guys want to do something, clean up the downtown, the buildings first. But where they're at now, they've got, and I asked, I said, so they said, well, I said, how are you going to go get food? They said, well, this place is going to bring us in food, the housing people. And I said, well, 3 times a day? And they said, no. And I said, well, what? Just tell me, what's the advantage of having it here than where you are now? Because they don't have access to walk to Safeway. Because they said, oh, could anybody go tonight? I said, yeah. And I told them where it was. They, oh, that's too far for us. So it's going to be the flip side. They won't be able to get to Safeway, Speedy, Thriftway, places where they can grab food, water, and have amenities. Places where people, I have given food, water, dog supplies for years and years. Jammer being one of the ones that I gave the most to. And so they won't have a drive-through connection anymore, or drive around even, with people going to be able to give people supplies. So I really, really encourage you, because Mama, no matter whatever you guys say, no matter whatever anybody says about, well, this will happen and this will happen and this will happen. Dave Peterson, the attorney, is my brother-in-law that owns the house. He sent in a lot of questions for you guys. And I don't buy it. So I'm sorry, but I'm a no. And if you look at all the police calls from somebody who's been very active of calling the police when there's issues, you're going to find me being 80% of them. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, my name is Christine Rogers. I live in Dock Hollow. I oppose the proposed location for the new sleep center behind the City Hall. Using a current camp as a model should include looking at the lessons they learned along the way to ensure Sweet Home doesn't make the same mistakes. The information I am presenting was obtained from 2 different articles from the Union Bulletin, Walla Walla's local news source. I'm sure you are aware that the model camp that you are using had to be moved from its, sorry, I'm nervous. I hate speaking publicly. Had to be moved from its original location. There were several factors that led to this decision to move the camp, and in part, okay, I'm sorry. In part include the following, summarized from an article dated April 16th, 2017. It stated that on March 22nd, neighborhood residents reported to their city council that the following issues began in their neighborhood after the first camp opened near them. Garbage cans and personal property had been rifled through, leaving messes for homeowners. Children were kept inside due to the number of intoxicated wanderers. Children were kept inside, hypodermic needles were found in lawns and in private trash cans. A bloody-faced man knocked on a resident's window one night, and a U.S. postal carrier was found bleeding after being assaulted as he delivered mail. The article moved on to possible new locations for the camp and listed primary criteria, which included the most minimal impact as possible to residential, commercial, and public use. A direct quote from the city manager, Nabil Shawa, in the article states, going forward, I don't envision us relocating to Fort Walla Walla Park. It's just too much of a rub on the quality of life here. We need to keep as far away as possible from residences and businesses. In the spring of 2019, your model camp was moved to its current location in West Ward, but continued to have the same problems there. I found an article that was written in December 2020. Council member Susan, I don't know how to say her last name, Nakanowski, led a walkabout during the summer, more than a year after the move, to show her fellow council members the area she represents, which is West Ward. They found, photographed, and presented the photos of homeless people camped outdoors, used drug needles, and other drug paraphernalia, stolen items, discarded bedding, people acting aggressively, littering, destruction of property, and more. The article goes on about the unsafe and illegal activity they found, but then moved on to the rules of the sleep center, noting that those who do not follow the rules must find someplace else to stay, and stated that generally they don't go far. She also showed the council a video with a person shouting foul language at night, claiming it is common in the neighborhoods. If people complain about noise, foul language, yelling, fighting, or other disruptions, they face retaliation, she said. She was also quoted as saying everything we saw on the walkabout was illegal. I reached out to the same councilwoman about our neighborhood's concerns, and she replied to me this afternoon. She states, and I quote, "In my opinion, a homeless shelter should not be in a residential neighborhood due to the type of behavior that is associated with homelessness. She goes on to say, again, I would suggest not placing a shelter in a residential neighborhood. The message in all of this is that moving the current homeless camp from downtown to property that borders our neighborhood is wrong. As representatives for our city, you should not claim to use the Walla Walla camp as a model and then pretend the problems that they've had and continue to have won't be here. They will. I asked in the letter submitted before this meeting, and I am asking again for you to find a location that does not border neighborhoods. If a homeless camp is not appropriate to have next to a school, it should not be appropriate to border a neighborhood. Our children aren't any less important than others. Our neighborhood or any other neighborhood should not be considered acceptable collateral damage to improve the downtown situation. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Name and address for the record, please.
My name, oops, I'm a little taller. My name is Leah Landrock. I live at 1231 40th Avenue in Duck Hollow. Let me get my papers here. Oh, okay. She got me choked up. I'm sorry. Here we go. I myself was once homeless, and I lived in a car for several weeks. My 56-year-old brother is still currently homeless, and he will tell you it is by choice because he prefers that to the drudgery of mortgages, utility bills, and a 9-to-5 job. Additionally, I myself worked in DPSS and HSS for a total of 20 years. I am very familiar with the homeless culture, both as one who has lived it and as one who has worked with them. With that being said, I object to a shelter being placed behind this building. A shelter that a council person recently stated publicly would not affect my neighborhood. Proponents for this location have indicated that they believe an 8-foot fence with coiled barbed wire on top, coupled with strict rules, will protect my neighborhood. I was also told that most shelter residents will probably stay in the camp all day long. I contacted the police department in Walla Walla, and I asked them for 2 years of the most recent public records, police records for the camp and surrounding areas. I received those police reports yesterday for all activity at and within a 700-foot radius of the current Walla Walla shelter. It is a total of 11.5 pages of police calls and activity. I also have a police report for a 2-year period in the same exact property before the shelter, and it's half of 1 page. When comparing the police activity for that area without and then with the shelter, the average number of police reports increased by 2,776%. I'm sorry, this is making me so angry.
Please.
That is huge. That is
Okay.
huge.
Please do not attack our council, though.
No,
We have not made a decision.
Right.
We appreciate the
Okay.
testimony, but please do not attack our council.
I'm not attacking. I'm just telling you. I'm just angry about this. That increase was by 2,776%. That one area went from having only 15 reports in a 24-month period to having 450 reports in 25 months. Shocking, but it was even worse before, during those months, when an average of 2 police calls a day were occurring when it was near residential areas, but they have since moved it to the industrial area. These reports show that the police are only called out now to the newer site on average once every 1.7 days. That's still a lot, but at least the city of Walla Walla moved it away from their residences and they're protecting their homeowners at this time. Also, less than 2 months ago, an illegal campsite just down the road from the Walla Walla campsite resulted in a fire that damaged private property. This indicates there are not only still pockets of illegal camps in Walla Walla, but that people were driving past one every day to get to the shelter from the city. Keeping all that in mind, our homes are only 345 feet from...
Just continue.
Okay, I'm almost done. I'm sorry. Our homes are only 345 feet from the proposed fence, which is more than 50% closer to the shelter than the 700-foot radius that was impacted in these reports. We are too close to this, and we do not want this close to our homes and to our children. If you give us the time, I believe we can get signatures, or whatever it is that you would ask us, so we can stop this from happening. I believe we can get the numbers. So please, do as you're asking us to do. If you trust in the fence that much, and you trust in the rules that much, and you really think that will protect our neighborhood that much, please put it at the old City Hall site. Okay? Because either the fence and the rules work or they don't. But don't use our neighborhood as a test, because we live here 24/7, and a lot of us are retired and we're literally there 24/7. So I just want to say thank you for your time. And like, again, my opinion is that it does not belong here.
Thank you for your testimony. Does the city have copies of this information sheet? Please, if you be so kind as to make sure the city has copies of your information.
Okay, including the police and the fire,
Yes.
the fire that happened down the street from it, and I will do that.
I appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Carpenter. Name and address for the record, please, Ernie.
How are you?
Pretty good. How are you doing, sir?
My name is Ernie Carpenter. I own the 25 acres next door. I'm building 40 units down here, and they'll be done in a couple months. Them 40 units will provide housing for approximately 80 people. You're talking about 20. I'm in the process of building maybe 80 more units for 160 people. You think I want this next door to me? You're crazy. So you make a choice, either more housing or no housing. Bottom line, I will not build any more over here. I will pull out of your city. Thank you.
Anybody else would like to come forth, be heard? Name and address for the record, please.
Katrina Remfeld. I'm on 1014 and a half North River Drive. Far from here, so it's hard to have an opinion on that side. I'm part of the general contractor that's in cahoots with the build of the Conestoga huts if they move forward. And we visited a place in Eugene because we have a client out there. It's right in the middle of the neighborhood, maybe a block from the school. It's been there 4.5 years. Our client actually happened to be on the board for building it and on her homeowner board. So she was balancing the two between, providing a place for the homeless and making sure that the mid to high end range homes were taken care of. So we just took some pictures. There was someone managing it. It'd been well established, and they had no complaints, none at all. And I fully I have a 8-year-old daughter, so I fully understand the fear in that. But I think amongst this community, the homeless population that you have would be doing that in the neighboring avenues that are near City Council's old spot right now. And if they're not doing that there, why would they do that here? Just a few blocks away. That's pretty much all. I took pictures, so if you guys want them, there's some of it, being well established so you can see how it evolves and changes, and the fence that's on it doesn't have barbed wire, and it literally borders very nice homes on both sides.
You can present that to the city and they'll make copies for us. Thank
That's
you for
pretty
your
much all I have.
testimony. Anybody else like to come forth, be heard? Name and address for record, please.
Rochelle James, 1206 41st. I submitted some questions regarding the police department, its current staffing level, and how many positions are filled, how many positions are open, and what minimum staffing is on an average shift. So how many officers that are available to respond to calls. I'm concerned that if the department is understaffed, that the amount of calls that are going to be generated, we're not going to have officers available, or we're going to have the typical, well, we will get to it when we have someone available. I'm worried that the number of 30 huts sounds like a lot for this area. I'd like to know how many homeless people you believe are in this area, how many you think are going to want to go to this location, and how many you think you'll be serving. I'm concerned that this number, when people hear that, is going to attract more people to this area for services, and then we are going to have an overflow. If that occurs, where are they going to go? I believe I saw something in one of these in an answer saying that if people don't want to abide by the rules, then they would be told they have to move to another community. How would you do that? How do you tell somebody, get out of my town? I feel like that doesn't seem like it's legal, constitutional. So if you have extra people that you can accommodate, what are you going to do with them? What responsibilities do you have to these people? Because I feel that they're going to come here wanting these services, and this is a very small town with very limited resources, and you're going to be overwhelmed. And I would like to know what's going to happen if that occurs. I would like to know if their police department can handle that amount of people and that influx for a sustained amount of time. So I'm very concerned about this. I've seen shelters in other areas. They all have rules. And I know this is all well-intentioned. However, I think it will become more than the city is going to be able to handle. And I don't know how you can assure everybody that that's not going to happen. So I would really like to hear some answers to those questions.
Okay, well, tomorrow night, there's a meeting here at 6:30. A lot of questions and answers will happen, so you're more welcome to come out. Thanks for your testimony. Anybody else like to come forth, be heard? Okay. Moving on to old business, the letter to send to the county commissioners regarding Mill property.
Council just held a work session regarding a letter to be sent to the commissioners. Legal counsel feels like it would be appropriate to have an actual motion from the council to authorize the sending of that letter. So we've asked the mayor to add that to the agenda so that it's covered procedurally.
Any questions of council? Council Director?
So, Mr. Mayor, I move that we send that letter to the commission.
I'll second that.
Motion second by roll call, please.
Counselor Richards?
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez?
Yes.
Counselor Gorley?
Yes.
Counselor Trask?
Yes.
Counselor Gerson?
Yes.
Counselor Mahler?
Yes. Let the record 6 ayes, no nays, with 1 absent. Approval of the letter to the county commissioner regarding Mill property. Water treatment plant emergency generator project update.
I'm going to hand this over to Director Springman, and I believe we have our engineer of record also participating online for further questions. Essentially, we've been working, as you know, on many capital projects, and there's been kind of an opportunity that has presented itself, so we wanted to make sure that the council was okay with that as we continue moving forward. So I'll turn it over to Director Springman.
So we've got a little presentation. Hopefully it won't take too long. Just want to give you an update because of the fact that you assigned some ARPA funds to this project, and there may be potential to use some FEMA funds. We kind of wanted to give you that update because we did tell you that we would come back and give you even more information sooner. So it may take us another 45 days, 60 days to get our arms around this whole project and grant funding, but we'll give you a little update of what we're doing and what we're trying to accomplish. With that, I'll ask Preston to come on if he's somewhere, and we'll go through this little
I'm on.
PowerPoint.
Can everyone hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, a little louder.
I don't know how to talk. Well, okay, I can talk louder.
There
That's
you
cool.
go. You got it.
All right. Greg, why don't you skip past the presentation overview slide to the current projects? Go, or whoever's controlling, go next slide. Okay, just always feel like it's good to give a quick update on everything we're doing because there's a lot going on. One good thing that happened, the AWEA risk and resiliency assessment was completed by the deadline. So the city is in compliance with the America's Water Infrastructure Act. Congratulations. Get to do it again in a couple years, but got through that deadline. And I think right on budget. So good job by our team, and really appreciate the city support from Greg and Trish and Steven. They were actively involved and definitely really helped with us in terms of getting everything that needed to be collected. And I should say on the administrative side, there was support from Brandon and city manager Ray Towery. So really appreciate everyone on that. Glad to have that project done. We are in the throes of the water master plan and the stormwater master plan. Water master plan's moving a little faster than stormwater because we've got this fairly large project below it. It's taken a lot of time for everyone. But the water master plan, we're on track right now, and the city was completing the hydrant testing, which will allow us to dive into the modeling and start coming up with some answers to some of the challenges that we've seen in the water system on the pressure side. So looking forward to diving into that, and had our internal weekly meeting this morning actually, and we're all just waiting for the hydrant testing and ready to rock and roll. I'll be in town all day tomorrow talking about the wastewater treatment plant, mostly kicking off the water treatment plant finished water backwash pumping project with Pacific Excavation, and then several meetings on the wastewater plant. Those are keeping us busy. One partnership that we're doing with the city on the water treatment plant project is Trish Rice is going to be the city's representative for construction. So we'll be providing support and doing what we call the office engineering, reviewing submittals, things like that. But Trish is going to be doing the daily observation, working with our team, and as a heavy lift on as many of the submittal reviews and other things as she can. Leading up to a similar role, we're hoping she can help keep the city's costs down a little bit by having a similar role on the upcoming wastewater treatment plant project. So excited to get that project kicked off into construction and keep charging on the wastewater treatment plant to get that thing under construction this summer. The small diameter water main replacement overlay projects, I heard the discussion about one of the streets that will get an overlay along with the water line replacement earlier in the first part of the council meeting. Civil West is on our team and is doing the design work there, and they're actually progressing really quick, and we're looking forward to getting those projects out to bid soon. Actually, I think we'll be able to have them out in the spring, but certainly happy to chat with Greg about that and the mayor if further discussion is needed, or if we need to solidify some dates based on the concerns that we heard tonight. So it brings us to the last project, which is one we're currently scoping to get through pre-design. I know it's a project that council is interested in. We've talked about it at council maybe 3 or 4 months ago. So wanted to give an update on kind of current thinking and the path forward. So that's the next few slides. Next slide. So the city commissioned, this is back, I think, in early part of summer, commissioned a study to look at a grant program that Pacific Power has for community resiliency. Typically what these programs do is when you put in a large standby generator at a treatment facility, in order to operate that facility in an emergency, you need a big generator. And that generator, if it is online and available to a power company, they will provide funding through these community resiliency programs for those gensets and pay some portion, sometimes a heavy portion of the cost of the genset. So the study that was done by Pacific Power looked at several options of resiliency, meaning your ability to operate the water treatment plant and make water for supply to the city in a situation where you lose power for an extended duration. They looked at just adding a generator and what those costs and potential funding would be. They looked at what they called an enhanced resiliency, which would be you have maybe a smaller generator, but then you have a battery backup that goes along with it, so that the facility could run off the combination. And then what they termed comprehensive resiliency adds solar, the PV array to that, to the genset and the battery. The thing about these three levels, you can envision standard, enhanced, and comprehensive means probably the cost goes up, which is true. You'll see that on the next slide. But as those costs go up, also the potential funding also goes up. So there's the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program has significant available funding, and is well funded with all of the wildfires and other things that we've had on the Western U.S. in recent years. Will provide, up to 3/4 of the project funding should you select and one of those options that would qualify for that level of funding. And then there's additional funds for energy efficiency and resiliency projects through agencies like the Oregon Department of Energy. There's Energy Trust of Oregon. You're getting $500,000 from them for the wastewater plant. There's a contract for that presently that we're anticipating you will be able to maximize. And then there's this Pacific Power Community Resiliency Program, which also has funding. We were told that the coming funding period has about $1.6 million, and that the city of Sweet Home was potentially the only applicant for those funds. I don't know if that's still true, but that is something that we were told on a conference call recently. Next slide. So in general, these are round numbers, but just in terms of thinking through the costs and options, we have previously indicated we think the new standby generator for the water treatment plant will cost around $1 million by the time we get done with all the work needed to purchase that generator, and then also all the work that's needed on the electrical side at the treatment plant to make that functional with the automatic transfer switch and switch gear, and just the civil site work to put in a genset is quite a bit. So we think that's a reasonable number based on the size that we think the generator will be. The enhanced resiliency program, kind of based on Pacific Power's estimate, I did not vet those, or we have not vetted those costs. The generator that they've sized is undersized for what we think is going to be needed. So there's some just understanding of what that generator with a battery backup means, and does it allow you to drop the generator down a specific size, and how does a battery provide the startup loads that you need to engage a motor, which are not the same as once you get a motor spinning, that you don't take as much power to keep it running. It's that startup power that tends to create a lot of demand, and there is some concern whether a battery would be able to handle that or how that would work. And then the comprehensive resiliency at $3 million if you added the solar array, and they sized it based on the roof area of the water treatment plant. The thing to consider, and the reason that we want to get into this and just start sorting out the details, is the city could just go build a generator. You've got ARPA funds, and certainly we could get that done, and you could pay for it and have it online, and we could move forward. But should you be interested in some of these more resilient programs, the enhanced resiliency or the comprehensive, and you were able to secure the FEMA funding plus some other potential funding, where you don't have to pay, say you pay 1/4 of the cost, perhaps you get more and don't spend as much of those ARPA funds, and those ARPA funds then could go to be building more water lines and getting more streets overlaid or something along those lines. And so what we are hoping to do is get into a pre-design where we can quickly look at some of these questions, come up with some answers to the questions we have, and then kind of present what we would recommend in terms of the path forward. And it may be that the specific power program makes a lot of sense. Next slide. The key challenge on this issue of using the ARPA funds, and I think one of the things to keep in mind, and we're happy with whatever the city and Greg and Public Works as well as council, how you would like to proceed, but FEMA does not work fast. FEMA does not work fast. So should you decide to pursue the FEMA funding, and I think there's a really good chance you would get it for this type of project, some level of funding. I don't know the exact amount, but I think you would get have a pretty good shot at it, just given your size of your community and the ability to get more resilient when you're kind of outlying the I-5 corridor. I think there's a great shot that you could get quite a bit of funding, but that's probably going to take you outside of that time frame for which I think you need to spend the ARPA funds. And so that may be the decision point is, do you proceed and along the lines of doing something with these resiliency opportunities, proceed with just doing the generator installation using ARPA funds. And that's what we're trying to get scoped right now is what's it going to take for us to kind of get through that discovery process and understanding, and then get a report back to the city with kind of here's what it's going to take, here's what we really confirmed the costs we think are going to be, and then the path forward that we'd recommend for y'all. So that's kind of the latest update. It's really not answers. We're working as fast as while we're trying to keep everything else we've got going on. The wastewater treatment plant is taking up a lot of my time and our time right now, and we've made that the priority because we have to. There's a big pot of money that we have to spend because we don't want the city to lose it. So we are doing our best to get this scoping effort done, really with the same crew that's working on the wastewater plant as fast as we can. And I apologize if we haven't been as engaged in this as probably we should have been. That's my fault. I've just been trying to wrap my arms around the wastewater plant for 3 months here. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Greg. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add or if there's anything else I need to say.
No, I think you pretty much covered it. Probably more so of the update where we were at, and if you guys have any questions, we're here to answer those at this current time, and we'll bring more back as fast as we can. So I guess any questions?
Any questions, councilors?
Mr. Mayor, so Preston, do the solar panels help that much in Oregon?
Yeah, great question. Certainly solar panels, I think everyone would acknowledge they're better and more efficient than they used to be, and they're certainly the technology has improved. But there is a factor of the time of year, and in a big event, in an emergency situation, sometimes those things don't happen in the summer when at the height of solar energy. So, but those solar arrays do work fairly well in the winter. You still do get energy off of them. But that would be one of the things we need to look at.
How long would those batteries last?
That's my biggest question.
If the generator went down, how long would they last? A day, 2 days, 3 days? Because that's important.
Great question.
So I can answer that. In the audit, I think they were trying to shoot for a 2-week window.
Okay.
So the size of those batteries and the demand, using what their demands were, they were hoping to get a 2-week period. So that was what they were shooting for.
But my question is on the batteries is really around, with batteries, if you don't use them, like you can't just have a battery sitting there. It's not going to have a lot of juice, if it sits there for 3 years. You have to run it down and then charge it back up to keep it going. And so I'm actually struggling, like, how does that work? And would like to get to that understanding of the way that we power, like, do we charge the batteries and then run the water plant off the batteries to be able to pull it down, just like your cell phone. You're supposed to take it down to almost nothing and then plug it in is what everyone always tells me. So my battery will last longer. I can't imagine that it's not the same thing, just a whole lot bigger.
Well, I got one more thing too. If you're going to be on a video here with us, that Wilsonville thing's got to go. It's like a Washington State thing.
I
Okay.
sincerely apologize. I was at softball practice today, and I scrambled back to get here as fast as I could. So we were able to be outside today, which was the first time in a while. So
Yeah.
I totally apologize. I will not let that happen again. Counselor Trask.
We'll get you Sweet Home Huskies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, we do play a Sweet Home team, and pretty good. Y'all are pretty good. Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Thanks, Preston.
One more thing, Preston. If we put a bunch of those solar panels over that pond right there, would that help with the, if we put like
So,
100 of them in
You're
that,
half
over that
joking.
pond?
You're half joking, but there is a system of shading that's solar panels. We almost put it in South Suburban Sanitary District down in Cave Falls, and
Well,
it's pretty cool actually. It'll keep the algae down.
There you go.
So one thing I did want to add with this is the same process we're going through with the water plant. We're kind of side streaming the wastewater plant because we have a new generator spec in that project. So this could have implications for both projects. So just want to let you know that we're trying to vet this as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I have one more question. Preston, are you guys going to be the ones doing the grant requests, or are we going to be doing that?
I don't think we've got that far ahead.
Okay.
Oftentimes Trish does a lot of that stuff,
Okay.
the grant application stuff. So, but we would, I think we would partner, try to keep your costs down, partner with you, help with some technical content, and maybe someone at the city takes the lead on the grant applications or something like that. But we would, certainly support whatever needed to be. And if we needed to do the applications, we certainly would.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So I have a question, and you laugh about shade, but I've actually seen solar panels being used for shade above livestock, and it works pretty good, evidently. So
It does. Agreed.
yeah. So we camp now, and we use solar panels. They're small to trickle charge our batteries so that we can keep our cell phones, everything all charged, and the batteries don't go dead. So I'm assuming that because we're hardline for electricity, we rely a lot on a lot of miles of wiring to get us the power we need to be able to run our water treatment plants. And with these generators, the solar panels are designed to charge the batteries that keep the generator going. But is it also designed to keep the buildings in power when that's not occurring and they're going to be trickle charging these batteries?
Do you want to take that one or you want me?
Are you talking to me, Greg?
Yeah, I've talked to you.
Yeah.
Sir,
So
I'll defer to you. Yeah.
Yeah, so the batteries aren't there to run the generator. The batteries that the generator would be there to help charge the batteries and also help keep the amount of power necessary to run the facility. So in like my boat, I have a bass boat. It has a trickle charger and you can tin those batteries. So I would imagine there's some sort of device that does that with these batteries. So when there's the demand, you're going to need that generator, which is smaller, to offset the battery charging and other solar. So all three together will work as I understand it, and I'm a water guy, but work together to keep things charged for that period. So the batteries aren't there to support the generator. They're actually there for storage, for usage for the facility.
Okay, so we lose power, and we're the last municipality of importance on the strip here. Is that sustainable? If we're looking at a generator large enough and batteries large enough and the solar panels, how long would we be able to go
Well,
with that in
the
place?
audit, the target they were hitting was 2 weeks. So
Only
let's
2
ask
weeks.
yourselves, we've had power outages here, right? How long
Mhm.
does your power outages last? Day, maybe at the worst? We've had hours, 3-4 hours.
We've had windstorms that take power out for some people for weeks.
Okay, so since I've been here, I haven't seen that. But
Okay.
so if we're shooting, which obviously Pac Power understands their system more than others, so they are actually recommending this 2-week period. So
Okay.
I would have to see there's some sort of reasoning or science behind that and sizing. But they all work together as one system, supporting each other, not one to support the generator, or they would all work in unison to run that facility for that period of time.
Okay.
That 2-week period is actually an important point that I would say Greg brings up, just because if we were to put in just the standby generator, we usually size the fuel tank for those gen sets from 24 to 72 hours. We get over 72 hours and it's such a big tank, you can't afford it. Or you've got so much fuel sitting there unused for so long, it goes bad. So, I mean, to have that type of system that could get the treatment plant, keep the treatment plant operating for 2 weeks is, that's not typical. That would really be something that would provide resiliency for your community. I don't want to understate that 2 week, potential downtime. That's significant.
No, I agree. I think in bad situations, we need our, water and we need our toilets. So thanks.
There's also a misconception that when you say solar, you need sun to get, but actually light itself is what
Correct.
really moves it anyway. But there's a difference, isn't there, versus a little bit of light versus sun?
So there is less energy off of solar arrays in the winter. But I do believe it's more a function of just fewer hours of daylight, more than it is the intensity. I am definitely a wastewater treatment guy, so I'm definitely stepping outside of my area of expertise. But that's in talking to people in various projects over the years. That's what I've been told anyway.
Yeah, typically facilities like this, you just get this big generator and it just does the job. When the power goes out, it comes on, and that's what it does. And we bring fuel as it's needed. That's what you see in the industry as standard. But this is a little outside the box.
The way I understand, Mr. Mayor, the way I understand batteries is it has nothing really to do with the generator. It has to do with if that generator quits. Is that not true?
No, I guess I'm trying to understand your question.
Okay, so if the generator goes down and we don't have power, the batteries run the system. Is that not true?
And solar, the other two would pick up.
Yes. So that's the reason.
I see the generator as supporting power that the batteries, in other words, it picks up the loads as it's needing, but all of them work together. The solar is the batteries,
yes,
and the genset can help support that as well. And so when the power goes down, the batteries can supply, but also that generator can supply it too. So
I think that's a really key question, Greg, though, that we need to understand in this first phase is how does this whole thing work together? Because that study, it was an interesting study, but it definitely was short of the details of this is how the system works. And I think that's a really fair question about, okay, what do the batteries do? And how do they work? How do they function with the genset? Because definitely they size the generator much smaller than we would size the generator. So I don't know if that was just done by looking at the history of loads, how much energy demand there was, or if there was some other logic to that because the battery provides some portion of the power or how that works. So that's a really key question. I think that's we need to get to the bottom of.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
So this isn't for you, Preston. This is for Brandon, maybe, if you don't mind. Can you tell me the date that the ARPA funds have to be spent by? Because that's kind of the crux of the matter. So
yeah, it's by December 31st of 2024.
So that's about 2 years to try to problem solve this.
Yeah, we've got about 2.5 years. Yeah.
Well, we have about a year because it's going to take us a year to get it designed and through construction. So we probably need to know the path forward quite a bit sooner than that, I guess I would say. I wouldn't want to put your ARPA funds at risk.
Procurement for generator and other things as well. Yeah.
It's probably, honestly, at that size generator, it might be 9 months to a year to get that right now, just the genset.
So to me, that kind of sounds like we don't have enough time to pursue other things because we need to get the contract and the stuff ordered to be able to use the ARPA funds, or else we'll forfeit that.
That is one thing I'm concerned about. Yeah.
I still maintain that this needs to be a super high priority for us. In a disaster situation, we've got to have water. So.
Well, no, I agree with that. But right now, things are going through the roof in price. So who knows if that's going to come down anytime soon. So that's something we have to keep in mind, too. So it is a priority.
So, Mr. Brandon, do we have to fill out that for pretty quick, or we got to wait for them to get their part done and then we got to wait another 9 months?
So
can we apply for that now is what I'm getting at.
for the ARPA funds?
Yeah.
The ARPA funds are already allocated to us. We've already received the initial installment.
Oh, okay.
We'll receive
That's
the
right.
next installment in probably July or August. So
Okay.
the money's ours. I have to do reporting periodically. But the other thing I would add too is if we get started on this project and are able to pursue grant options, then we have the ability to repurpose the ARPA funds to a different project at that point.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yes, timing's always going to be a concern in that regard. But if we're already moving forward with say small diameter water mains, and we decide we've got grant funding for this generator project, we're going to shift the ARPA money over to small diameter. We're not losing any ground because we're already moving forward with that small diameter. So there are some financial tools, I will call it, that will help us keep this going and not necessarily risk the ARPA funding. But if we got started with the assumption we were going to use this, it can be reassigned.
We have small diameter projects stacked up like airlines in Portland, PDX. So, and you heard from customers tonight about their streets, and I want to pave that street, but I can't pave it till I at least get that water line in. I guess I could, but then I'm cutting it up as soon as we replace
So,
it.
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, Greg, but so Mr. Mayor, President, are you asking us to give you a go ahead on this today? Is that what you're asking?
No.
Just an update, sir.
Okay.
An update.
My name's
Yeah,
Dave
we just
Metzer.
want to make you aware that we're gambling with ARPA funds a little bit. We're hoping that maybe we can stretch those out, especially the way things are going in this market and widgets. I think every dime counts. If we can get 45 days, 60 days, we can get this vetted out. I think we can march fairly quick. We could absolutely get going and just go straight right up the middle with a generator, but that's spending all the ARPA funds and just going down that. I think it warrants maybe a little bit of time to kind of vet some of this out, and then we can make a hard decision.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Moving on now thanks, Preston.
Thanks all. I'm gonna go take my Wilsonville gear off now.
Thank you, Preston.
I'm gonna put on a Sweet Home hat. Night.
Good night, too.
Okay, moving on to request of council action agreement and lease with FAC for managed outreach and community resource facility.
This begins on page 7 of your council packet. You have the RCA in front of you. Enclosed in this is both an agreement with FAC, in which it's an agreement in which to provide services for the community, but you also have a lease, which is the second document. That lease agreement begins on page 16 of your council packet. And so we are looking for council directive on that.
At this time, I'm going to open up questions for council.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I feel as though based upon the testimony and the evidence that was presented today and the fact that we don't have a meeting with our neighbors, that we have told them we want to build trust with them, that we table this until the next meeting and after we have our town hall.
I agree with Councilor Sanchez.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think there's some testimony that was brought forth this evening that we need to look into, especially some of the documents that was presented by Walla Walla is totally opposite of what was presented to council, which is a little concerning a little bit. I would like us to have all the council members to have copies of those documents that was presented this evening. I think we need to do our due diligence, and we have a meeting tomorrow night, 6:30. I think it's on our best interest to see what the citizens really truly have to say, enlighten some of our citizens of some of the situations we were faced with, and obstacles we're having to deal with and give some another little bit more thought into this and just not jump at it quickly.
Frankly, I'm not married to this, and so, but I was really.
Got it.
The Community Health Committee was asked to take this task on. And as long as I've been on this council, we have been fighting this issue, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And we've had a lot of meetings. We've had a lot of public discussion, and all of that's recorded for anybody to see. I get that, and I understand not in my backyard. I totally get that, guys. But we need solutions every time we put up a roadblock. We need to know where. We need to know how. How are we going to protect the majority of our community, which is our task? How are we going to protect the majority of our citizenry and neighborhoods, which is our duty? So they don't know that there's going to be a dog park back there. They don't know that there's going to be a better barrier around there. And that if we are willing to put it in our own city backyard, that we're taking the highest level of accountability that a city's willing to do. And instead of putting up roadblocks and saying, this is hard for people to understand, we need solutions. And so I challenge everyone who's saying no to have a solution, because the state is saying that our police can't move these people along, that we can't pull them off along the creeks, we can't pull them out of our downtown area, we can't pull them out of our doorways unless we have this. So what, and they're going to be in your neighborhoods, and they're going to be unsheltered and having problems until we have a solution. And this, people have worked really hard to create this solution and advocate for the least damage possible to cover the most people possible. How are we going to get there, guys? And we can keep kicking this can, but it's not going to get better downtown, and it's not going to get better in the neighborhoods. It's not going to get better behind our businesses until we make some adult decisions. And it's hard. And we're going to make somebody mad in the process. I promise you, we will make somebody upset, and they're going to be upset. But we can try to mitigate that one at a time. And we can try to do the best we can, whatever decision it is that we make. And so this is just, I really just want to have an honest dialogue of where do you want to put this? Where do you want to go? Because we really wanted to put it by the Public Works, but we have a dirt issue. And nobody's saying it has to be here forever, but we do need to do something. So, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'm not opposed to having it behind the City Hall. I actually do think that is a really good solution, but I think that, again, we've jumped the gun a little bit by not communicating to the neighbors in the way that it was presented, as it would not impact our neighbors. They've come to us and they've brought testimony that counters that. And so in the spirit of building trust with our neighbors, I would make a motion to table this until after our community meeting to where they can be on the same page with us or offer some other solutions. I agree. We moved really fast, and I hear you. The thing is what we're talking about right now is moving forward with a contract with FAC so they can start making plans. This is not a contract with ourselves for the property. This is a contract with AFC. Am I right? And to move forward with that wherever it's at.
Mr. Mayor, the contract states this address. This is the address in the contract.
I believe, so there's two documents. You have the contract for services and you have a lease agreement. And I do believe the lease agreement.
It states this address.
I think you're correct.
And it's also missing some things that I would like to discuss, but not at this time, not until after we have our neighborly outreach to build trust with the community that we're requesting to put this next door to.
Can we divide them out?
Yeah.
Can we divide out the two issues?
You're going to have to redo the document.
Yeah, that's the way I understood it. Yeah, it's intermingled documents.
They're married together right now. You can put them in two, but a lot of the lease information will go over to your agreement and vice versa a little bit. But right now they're like this, and it said they're like this because that's the way it came down. But they can be two separate documents. But it'll take some. We'll just have to.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Terms over here and terms over here. Separate them.
so Jeff, I would like to ask you a question. So, have the police calls in the avenues been up since this camp has been behind the city hall?
Not necessarily in the avenues, but we've ran our stats associated with that area where the facility's at, the old city hall. We've ran our stats for about the last 4 years, and they are up without a doubt associated with the camp. There was a spike in 2019. If those who are on the council remember, we were dealing with a lot of issues in the parking lot at the library, and we actually came up with some ordinances at the bus stop, things such as that. We had a spike in 2019 associated with problems in that area of town, Kalamaya Street, between 12th and 15th, basically, or 14th. It dropped down significantly in 20, but in 20, the problems moved to the Thriftway area, the Nazarene Church, when they set up their temporary shelter facility. And then again in 2021, when it came back to the middle of town, calls have spiked without a doubt.
But,
So,
excuse me, I'm sorry, but in the facility itself, right? Not in the neighborhoods around it, other than the store. I know the stores have had some problems.
not in the neighborhoods around it, but in that immediate area surrounding the homeless camp. And I'll refer to 12th and Kalamaya. This is basically how we pull the calls. 12th and Kalamaya, 13th and Kalamaya, and 14th and Kalamaya. That surrounding area, the library and the old city hall, and that portion of Long Street is what is documented.
Okay,
But
thank you.
Keep in mind here that behind the city hall is really not being managed.
Oh, none of them have.
It's not being managed.
No.
So keep in mind, it's not fairness to because wherever we decide to put this, it's going to be managed. So there's a difference there. It's not like it's going to be a free for all like it is right now. So I want to make sure that you understand that.
Right. What I was trying to get at was, are they wandering the neighborhoods? That's what I was trying to get the answer to.
The information I have and what I've witnessed, I don't see them in their neighborhoods. Currently they're in the downtown area when they're around.
Okay, thank you.
And
Mr.
the
Mayor,
difference part of it is also the supervision at night. The person on the premises will be one of our own. And so it's a different atmosphere than it'll be someone from the police department. And I think that definitely changes what's going on.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, please.
Go ahead.
I know you had some information presented about when the camps were in different locations. When we went to Walla Walla, their city manager specifically discussed those issues with us, and they referred to them as Camp Chaos. Those were unmanaged camps. Those were like, we got to put them kind of like what we're doing at City Hall. We're going to put them in this location, or at the old City Hall, excuse me. They had tents, they were unmanaged, they were unsupervised. Those issues are what caused them to build the facility they have now. Just to understand that we're trying to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges so that it's a fair comparable. So the numbers and what they talked about was, again, Camp Chaos. There was no supervision, there was no fencing, there was no management in place whatsoever. And they were, homeless were essentially free to do as they pleased at that point. Coming into and creating this facility where it's at now, she shared with us actually the opposite has come. They're not getting the calls in neighborhoods now. And when they get calls to the location, it's to the location. Rarely is it to anything that's actually surrounding. Just to understand the differentiation between the issues that they faced in Walla Walla. But she, at that point in time, we compared their Camp Chaos because we had the Nazarene Church issues and Jeff and I think Sean's here were spent a significant amount of time trying to help out at the Nazarene Church. And a lot of those issues were the exact same things that Walla Walla faced. And again, when they moved it to this managed facility, a lot of those issues will never go away. Certainly, there will always be issues in our community, but they were much more manageable after that.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may. So, one of the things I think we need to be cognizant of is that we've looked at a ton of alternatives. And the city doesn't own much property. We're not in the real estate business. We don't have any private property owners who have been willing to step up. I'm going to say this is probably not a popular thing to say, but we have 37 churches in town. Some of them have lots of tax exempt property, but nobody has stepped up. And we need to step up. People need to wonder what we can do with these people that don't want to go in the camp. They can be exited out of the city. Whether that's nice or not, I don't know. But actually, the police do have the right then to say, we have a place for you to be. If you don't wish to be there, then you can't camp on public property. And that means that you need to find someplace else to be. I too want to support the community. I certainly hope somebody in the Duck Hollow community becomes a member of the board. There's a 7-member board that's going to work. I don't know if I want the word manage, but at least an advisory board, which would give them ample opportunity quickly to address the problems that are facing them. So I really do want to work with the community, but I think we don't have many options.
If I could, I'd like to remind the council as well, they can do this without us. And I guarantee you they're willing, able. Their funding is their funding. They don't need us. They can go buy a house anywhere in the community under current legislation. They can go lease a house anywhere in the community under current legislation. And then we would have zero input on what happened. Current legislation in the state of Oregon, zoning and planning, land use is not applicable for emergency shelters. That's something else we have to consider. If we don't work to do this with them, they will go do it without us because they can't.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'm under the impression that there's a shortage in housing, so I'm not quite sure where they're going to find capacity to have all of these people. And then again, I don't know what to do for Robert's rules, but I made a motion to table this until after the community town hall to build trust, and I don't understand why that. And Dylan, he said he agreed, so I don't understand.
Point of order. A motion to table does require a second, and at least I didn't hear a second.
I'm going to go ahead and second that because I honestly think that there's some testimony that's been brought forth that I would like to see. And that's just in fairness. I mean, I'm not disagreeing we need to find a location. I'm not saying that one bit. But I think we need to do our due diligence, and we need to give in fairness to the folks coming tomorrow night to listen to them, let them hear everything that we've done, because this property back here was just thrown in our lap very soon. It wasn't like we've had this in our back pocket for several months. This was dumped on us very soon. These folks have not had the opportunity to see what we've heard and what we went through and what we've done. So I feel we need, in fairness, for these folks to hear tomorrow night.
Well, I agree. I agree that it moved very quickly.
I'm not saying
yeah.
that we don't come up with a place. I'm
Mr.
not
Mayor.
disagreeing with that.
I'm also saying, oh, no, I agree. That came up very quickly, and I respect that very, very much. I totally get that. I also know that we need to respect everybody who has been sitting meeting after meeting after meeting and invested in the time to understand what's going on, because it affects everybody in our town. These decisions affect everybody in our town, whether they know it or not. And we need to get to where that we understand that we will be better off once we do something, whatever it is, something. But we keep kicking this can down the road. There are businesses, there is property, commercial property that could be used to do this. And we will lose opportunity, and we will lose choices, and we will lose control. And I'm worried about that at this point. And and I do plan on being there tomorrow night. I want to hear, I want to make sure everybody is respected and knows what's going on, because I think being informed is really important. But I'm very concerned about thinking that it's going to go away, because it won't go away.
Mr. Mayor, point of order.
Point of order, yes.
A motion to table cannot be debated or discussed once
Yeah.
it's been seconded.
So
So
we
at this
had a
point,
motion and a second.
a vote must be held.
We need to hold a vote. Roll call, please, on the table.
Counselor Trask.
Yes.
Counselor Gerson.
No.
Mayor Mahler.
Yes.
Counselor Richards.
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez.
Yes.
Counselor Gorley.
No.
Let the record show we have 4 ayes, 2 nays, 1 absent to table this to next council meeting for decision. And we may also want to split these two out too. So anyway,
Mr. Mayor, if I may, would council entertain a special meeting next week after the community forum to address this issue? I just,
Yeah.
we've got to do something. Would the council entertain that at least?
Mr. Mayor, I had a question before we did this thing. Is there a time frame for this grant that they got for the 400,000, or is that Dr. Hart? You might know more about that than anybody, but is it? Do we need to get on top of that before that goes away, or they're just going to pull out and do whatever they want to do?
I don't know.
Okay, all right.
I don't think there's an answer to that.
Yeah, okay, we're good. Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, I could do a meeting next week.
I can too. Yep.
no, we can set up a meeting next week. I mean, we do need, again, in discussion, we need to do our due diligence, listen to the citizens. I think it's important. I'm not saying to push the can down the road forever. We just need to do our due diligence. And there was other thing that was brought to my attention that again, we've got testimony that came forth tonight we need to look at. But another thing that's been brought to my attention is the old city hall, I won't say has been abandoned, but it's not being used anymore by the fire department. I mean, to the level that they said that they were going to use it. In fact, they pulled out of some of the stuff that they were using for personal use. So that's another topic of discussion we can have at our next week meeting. Because,
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, and they're tearing stuff up on the fence there,
yeah.
and it opens with when you drive up to it, they're messing with that stuff and breaking it, and it's not like that anybody at this table or anybody in this room wants us to be here, but we have I hate it. It's a law for something that we are going to have to do at some point. So anyway, I'm done. We'll move
Set
on.
up a time next week.
Can we poll a day of the week?
Um, 31st, first, Monday, Tuesday.
I can't do Monday.
Okay, Tuesday.
Tuesday I work. On Monday I have appointments up in Portland, and then Tuesday I don't have anything. Tuesday's good. Tuesday's good.
Yeah, Tuesday's good with me too.
Shoot for Tuesday.
So Tuesday night, February 1st?
31st or the 1st?
I think we said Tuesday the 1st.
First.
Councilor Sanchez?
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Which time works best for everybody?
6:30 is fine.
6:30. Mayor selection of City Council Managed Outreach and Community Resource Facility Policy Board member. Basically, I was just going to ask any counselor wanted to do that, but I thought maybe Counselor Gorley that you'd be more of interest in that based on the. Okay.
I would love to, but at this point, I don't.
Any counselor?
I think it'd be really great to have a different counselor in that area.
Yeah. Any counselor interested in that?
Repeat that.
This Managed Outreach Community Resource Facility Policy Board member. It's just a council representative regarding that.
Mr. Mayor, if nobody wants to take it, I would.
Counselor Sanchez. Good. Okay. This time I'll go into new business, a proclamation denouncing racism in Sweet Home. I will read the proclamation. Proclamation.
Thank you.
Thanks. Proclamation denouncing racism in Sweet Home. Whereas we are grieved and deeply saddened to hear that a neighbor has been poorly treated while visiting our community, and whereas as a city we ask for forgiveness for any people who have been harmed directly or indirectly by our community in the past, whether distant or recent, and whereas history has tragically taught us that what happens when people stand by and allow acts of hatred to occur, and whereas we desire to train our young people to honor all people, and whereas we strongly encourage all leaders, guardians, parents, and teachers to teach those their care to demonstrate equal respect, sincere appreciation, and care for everyone, and whereas we seek to build a better community, and whereas we as the Sweet Home City Council condemned any words, behaviors, and attitudes that provoke fear, shame, and hostility towards another person. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Sweet Home City Council denounces all forms of racism and asks our community to look deeply and continuously in their hearts and minds to identify all signs of vestige of racism, to rebuke the use of racist language and behavior towards others, to root out such racism in daily life and daily encounters with persons we may know and with strangers we may not know, and to expand our consciousness to be more aware and sensitive to expressions of racism and radical stereotypes. Proclaim this 25th day of January 2022. And also for note for counselors, we have this in paper form, and before you leave this evening to sign it. Thank you. At this time, second quarter financial update.
This is page 6, and we'll hand it over to Brandon.
56.
56.
For your reading enjoyment. So I will make this quick, and certainly am available for any questions if you should have them. Our second quarter was just about as strong as our first quarter. We're in a good spot, and I'm happy to say that. There are some indicators that we are going to need to pay attention to. Specifically, inflation forecasts remain very high. The CPIW for 2021 registered at 7% for the last calendar year. That's going to be a long-term concern potentially if that doesn't come back down soon. There is a lot of action happening. There's a lot of attention happening at Fed discussions related to rates, interest rates. It is having an impact on the mortgage market currently, which indicates a potential slowdown in new and available housing. As far as just market turnover, that could mean houses are on the market longer. I don't see any indications of a 2008 type fallout, but it's certainly something we need to keep an eye on. And as things start to level off, we'll start to see some of that compression return to our property tax revenue that we've been able to avoid for the last 4 years as we've watched that decline. Moving along, though, to happier notes, investment earnings, there was a small decrease, a lot of that due to interest rates from LGIP, or the local government investment pool. So we earned $18,359.03 over the last fiscal quarter. Again, that's still really low compared to what we used to get, but we'll take anything over nothing. Property tax revenue. I have revised that forecast slightly higher. On the general fund side, we're estimating in excess of 1.7%, which doesn't amount to much as far as the general fund is concerned. But in the police department and the library, we're moving up our projections to show an extra $160,000 in revenue for the police department for the year and $22,000 for the library. I think in the last projection, I don't remember what the police department's was, but the libraries was $10,000 for the year. So a good projection revised north to pad fund balances for those areas. In terms of compression, we've already talked about that in our last quarter. Property real market values for 2021 for the 97386 zip code increased 24% in the last calendar year. That's that's obviously is city property and county property, but that's good news for our next fiscal year. It's the outlying fiscal years that we'll be paying particular attention to. So the police and library department should be happy as far as their budgets are concerned next year, because we're going to watch that compression fall even further than we have already. Overall, current projection, property taxes 4.12% above the adopted budget. Service charges, we revised down slightly. Primarily just as we get further into the year, we get a kind of a better picture of what SDCs look like. But we are still significantly higher than we had originally budgeted. So all good news there. On the utility revenue side, not much change, a small reduction compared to the first quarter. But everything seems to be holding strong there. A surprising change for this report was gas taxes. So we watched the second quarter projection raise above what we had anticipated for at the end of the first quarter, indicating that more folks are back on the road. Gas taxes are coming in higher for the state, and they're passing on some of that excess to cities and counties. So we are excited about the opportunities to bring in some extra dollars, especially since during COVID we saw a significant reduction in what we were getting in gas taxes. And do remember that we received an extra $140,000 this year from CARES funding that we weren't anticipating. So that's driving a lot of the revision. In other revenues, this one looks rather dire, but I promise you it is not. The biggest change here is the delay in the wastewater treatment plant construction, which is going to delay us requesting reimbursement on any wastewater treatment plant expenses, particularly from the $7 million allocated by the state. There is a plan in place and a timeline that we will not lose that funding. We're not worried about that. We just aren't going to take it in this fiscal year as we had anticipated. So it will be part of the 2023 budget that you will see in the coming months. But this revision downward is primarily due to that. On the expenditure side, personnel expenditures, we're still in a good position. They are up this current year based on decisions made at the council level, particularly related to ARPA payouts, or ARPA premiums. Sorry, that's a better word. Overall, though, we anticipate that we will not exceed the $6.5 million budget. There are vacancy savings across multiple departments. And so we will kind of watch and see what that does through the end of the year. Materials and service and capital outlay. We did revise the projection down again related to not spending money at the wastewater treatment plant. So I anticipate there will be significant budget overall left over, but most of the departments are spending. Most of the departments are on track with their existing budgets and hitting their targets. So there won't be a lot left on the table other than stuff related to the wastewater treatment plant. Beyond that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions, council? Okay, thanks, Brandon. At this time, Shedick Spring event discussion. Okay, Mr. Shemick, you can come on up. Sorry for you having to wait for so long this evening, but I tried.
Well, this is a tough act to follow. We've done homeless, wastewater treatment, and now I got to talk about throwing a party. That's a little. Well, I'll just give you guys an update on the Jamboree first. We have been doing a remarkable job this year, putting our town together. I don't know if you guys follow our, but it's pretty awesome this year. 30th anniversary. We're switching things up. We're going back to 2019, so we'll have our big kickoff party on Thursday night again out on the street. It's always fun. It's open to the general public. We'll have vendors and food and lots of live music, which will be fun. We're bringing in a national act for that this year, which we haven't done much of in the past, so should have a better draw for the community. I already have 6 offers out for 2023 already, which is pretty incredible. So hopefully you guys approve 2022 so I can move forward. And I promise you, Diane, I'm not gonna turn it in July this year. Some of the other things we're working on, the spring event, we're looking at putting on not necessarily a brew fest, but more of a music and brews. It's more music based. So we'll have talent throughout the day, lots of it at night. It'll be kind of like a bazaar also during the day. We'll have vendors, food vendors. It'll be open to the general public. Anybody can come in at certain set hours, and then at night you have to have a ticket to watch the the bigger acts play. One of the things we're looking at is using some school property. I went in front of the school board last week, and I think they're 100% on board with us using their property for, say camping, parking. I'm not so sure that they're going to allow me to sell alcohol on their property. What we're looking at is putting a big tent in the old tennis courts across from the high school, like on the north side of Long Street. So it's kind of up to them on that. We do have a couple other locations we're looking at. One's the Boys and Girls Club. It's always a good option. And a couple of private parking lots in the city itself. So, and with that, Sheddig is all about bringing people into Sweet Home. If we can make a few bucks, it's great, but we don't necessarily have to. It's all about bringing money into our town, bringing people into town to spend their money, making money for a lot of nonprofits. We wrote over $30,000 in checks to the school this year, and not to the actual school itself, but to all the programs that helped, which was pretty awesome. And we pay the school a lot more than that. So, but yeah, we wrote $30,000 in checks to the, football, soccer, baseball, all those clubs that came in and helped. So it was just a lot of fun. But yeah, and I'm not exactly sure what Ray has talked to you guys about. But one of the things that we would love to see happen is more of a partnership. When we partnered with the Tune It Up Tuesdays that we did in September this last year, it was great. It was a good time. We drew a lot of people out. And we're going to do that again this year. We're actually going to do it in June as kind of a lead up to the Jamboree. So we'll showcase some of the talent that we have. And we like to do the same thing for the spring event as well. And it's basically marketing on our side, to try to sell more tickets to the Jamboree, which just brings more people into town. But I don't know what your guys' feelings are on, putting some money towards that. You guys helped out last year with the Tune It Up Tuesdays, which was great. And I don't know if, maybe we can allocate some of the funds that I pay or that the Jamboree pays to the city during Jamboree time. Like maybe our occupancy tax. We've talked about that several times. We usually pay the city anywhere from $12,000 to $15,000 in occupancy tax for everybody that comes and camps within the city limits. I think, if we could somehow include that back into the Jamboree, so it's just kind of a wash for you guys. But it enables us to put that money towards either marketing for people to come to Sweet Home, or put it into other events that we're having here in Sweet Home. We've kind of gone away from hosting other events outside of Sweet Home. We used to do events in Corvallis, we do them in Bend, we've done them in Portland, but the Shedding Board's mission is to have everything that we do, bring it to Sweet Home. So that's why we did, the Tune It Up Tuesdays. We're trying to do a Music and Brews. I met with, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Gambler 500. It's one of the largest, it's basically an event where everybody goes out in these crappy cars and they pick up garbage along the way. And at the end of the race, which isn't a race, because I think you get a bowling ball thrown through your windshield if you're the first one there. There's big, huge dumpsters, and you put all your garbage in the dumpsters. But I talked to those guys last week, took them on a tour of the old quarry site, and he's really excited about maybe doing a hoopty cross race down there on the quarry site late summer, possibly September, October. And obviously, that has a lot more discussion to have, but just trying to bring some fun stuff into Sweet Home and try to draw some more people in here. I see the Radiator Supply House guys are back there. We partnered with them a little bit last year when they did their big barbecue competition, and I know, if I know those guys, it's going to be big this year. So sorry. I was giving you some props. So no, and I'm hoping to partner with them again this year. To bring some music down there. We're just excited to, for one, to still be alive. COVID. That was a tough road to go down for the Jamboree, and luckily we were able to have our event in 2022 or 2021, and it did really well for us. So we've survived to have another event. So, but maybe Ray can talk a little bit more about where he was thinking about maybe pulling some funds from, or.
I think Ray was talking about $100 donation. I don't know where you got.
Hey, $100 better than nothing.
So this is not a budgeted item, obviously. Brandon and I talked, and it would take some kind of a budget adjustment. But you do have economic development funds, which is the whole purpose of the Jamboree, that are at your disposal for this. So there is, you could utilize some funding for this for whatever amount that you chose to do that if you wanted to.
Open for questions of council.
So of course, time goes on, right? So yes, I do have a couple of questions. So was the Jamboree successful financially?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then you were talking about the hotel
occupancy tax.
Yeah, that tax. That's what funds the visitor center at the chamber.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what we use that money for. So just so you know that
okay.
I would be against taking it away from them for this purpose. So are you going to do, is it going to be country western music again?
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be. Even the Oregon Jamboree, there's nothing that says country in our name, so I might surprise you next year.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah. Well, I think you will. But no, we'll have all kinds of different genres of music. It's our 30th anniversary. We were born in 1992.
So we're going to go back to some, well, kind of more retro, not necessarily hair bands, but like a, like a Journey cover or something like that. So yeah, not necessarily all country.
Okay, thank you. So my question was, so currently when we do an event like this, whatever kind of event they are, there are expenditures that we have, like overtime, law enforcement people, all of this stuff. What is our current in-kind contribution for an event like this, for supporting them from the city?
We figured this out 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I want to say it was right around the. So, just to clarify, the Jamboree pays for officers in the facility, correct? So the officers that are inside the fence is paid for by the Jamboree. But we do bring some additional officers in. We kind of borrow some. Sheriff, Lebanon, Albany, they come and help us outside as well. I want to say the total, all with both of you, is like in the 12 to 15,000. Is that right?
Of in kind?
Yeah, that's setting up the whole week too. Does that sound right to the two of you or Brandon?
I would be guessing until I'm trying to take a look.
Yeah.
We do not have very much. I think we do a little bit during the week, and the number I remember was exceeding $8,000.
Yeah, I think it was around.
It's somewhere in there.
So
It was,
maybe 10?
he was the lion's share of that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's current, but that's kind of what I recall.
And were you saying the Jamboree specifically, or were you saying just general events in Sweet
Well, we
Home?
know we should have fairly hard numbers for Jamboree expenditures. And so because the type is set up, now I know that we have runs and different things that also run into expenditures, but I don't know that when we look at a contribution to something like this, we also need to consider in kind as well as part of that. I don't know how the other counselors feel about that, but if we know the overall cost, then I think it helps make a better decision.
I'm all for this. Anything that brings more alcohol and more. I just like alcohol.
More
I'm
brew
all good
fest,
for
right?
Oh my gosh.
That was more information than I needed to know.
Benny, would you please do me a huge favor and not quote that?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I love your ideas. I love that Hoop DX or whatever might come to town. I was actually fortunate enough to be able to go on the Gambler 500 last year. I love the fact that they recycle and pick up trash and utilize things that are no longer useful for fun. I think it would draw a huge crowd to the town. I love the spring event idea, whatever that may be. We need a lot more activities in this town for the community, and we need to bring people here to see how awesome we are, and I support whatever you guys want to do. So
I'll just accept a check from you if you want.
I might have to put you in a truck to get that check.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with Councilor Gerson. I don't want to take money away from the chamber for this. And if you've been so good and you got so much money, I'm a little bit cautious about spending the city money to back that up. Although I do see the big positive part of it, I do.
Yeah.
So we just have to have a number, and definitely I'm not for taking it out of the chamber because they need all the money they can get. But anyway, so I agree that we probably would have been better to do this many years ago.
Yeah.
And the more we can do, the better off we are.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. But I'm talking 60s, not the 70s, not the 80s, not the 90s. Yeah.
Mr.
Well,
Mayor, you
I
need
thought
to
you
bring
were
your
talking
car
about the
down.
40s,
You need to bring your car down to Tune It Up Tuesdays because we'll have some good ones down there.
Hey, they're out there. You just got to look for them.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, just to answer the question from before, the dollar amount that we were talking about in a spreadsheet that we did a couple years ago was $9,100 in city waivers and water and police personnel costs and so on and so forth. So it's probably $9,000 to $10,000 ish.
So we can pull let's say 10,000 out of economic development that doesn't come from the chamber. Is
It's an option if that's what the council would like to do.
I'll throw that out to the council. What's your option?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I could deal with that too.
So moved.
Well, we can't really make a decision on this. So what we'll do is put, it's
Well,
not on the council, it's the RCA. That's what I wanted a clarification.
with our 10 and his 100 and her, we don't know what it's going to be yet. Now he's in.
Mr.
Just
Mayor.
personally, he's in.
So just a point of information.
We-
If somebody
We
wants,
need a commitment in writing.
if somebody wants to make a motion for that,
Okay.
then it is allowable. You don't have to have an RCA.
Okay, I just wanted clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
So, but
motion second.
So you want the motion to say that I move to move it from economic, or to use economic development funds for the purpose of supporting this event.
We would need an amount in that motion as well.
I think the amount was $10,000.
10,000.
There you go.
I'll second that.
A motion second, and this will be by vote roll call, please.
Counselor Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Trask,
Maybe, yes.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Mayor Mahler,
Yes,
and Counselor Richards.
Yes.
let the record show we have 6 ayes, no nays, 1 absent. Approval of 10,000 coming out of economic development to go to Sheddick's event.
Thank you
And
guys. Appreciate it.
We probably want to include the $100 for Ray Towery too.
I'll second that motion.
So, is there a raise I'm not aware of coming? I would like to thank Councilor Richards for helping bring the mood of the meeting up today. Thank you very much for that.
Wow. And if you guys see him with a black X on his hand during the event, you'll know.
It's probably a good thing we don't have drug and alcohol testing for the counselors. Thank
All right,
you.
you done
Robert.
with me?
Thanks. Okay, moving on. We do have ordinance bill number 1 for 2022, amending certain sections of the building code. So I need a counselor to a directive to move forward for first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Second by roll call, please.
Counselor Richards,
Yes.
Mayor Mahler,
Yes.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley, yes. Counselor Sanchez.
Yes.
Okay, 6 ayes, no nays, 1 absent. Moving this for first reading this evening.
Okay. Brandon tells me the computer has laryngitis. So I get to read this. Ordinance Bill number 1 for 2022, ordinance number blank. Sweet Home Ordinance amending certain sections of SHMC Chapter 15.01, Administration and Enforcement, Building Code, and SHMC Chapter 15.03, various codes with expediency clause. Whereas the City of Sweet Home needs to synchronize its code with state law for the appeal process to operate in an effective manner, and whereas the City of Sweet Home desires to specify some of the functions of the building official, now therefore the City of Sweet Home does ordain as follows. Section 1, SHMC Section 15.01.090, paragraph A, first sentence is amended to read as follows. A, in order to hear and decide appeals of orders, decisions, or determinations made by the building official relating to the waiver of a plan review, an inspection, a provision of the building code, or an alternative material, design, or method of construction interpretation by the building official with regard to the building code, there shall be and is hereby created a Board of Appeals. Section 2, SHMC Section 15.01.090A, paragraph A, subsection 1, is amended to read as follows. 1. The Board of Appeals shall consist of the building official of Lynn County or an adjacent county and members who are qualified by experience and training to pass on matters pertaining to building construction and who are not employees of the City of Sweet Home. An individual who engages in the business of building design or construction may be a member of the board but may not hear an appeal of a contract building official's discretionary decision concerning a project that involves a business or a competitor of a business that A, the individual owns or manages, or for which the individual provides services as an employee, agent, or contractor, or B, a family member or a member of the individual's householder owns or manages, or for which the family member or member of the household provides services as an employee, agent, or contractor. Section 3, SHMC Section 15.01.090, Paragraph A, Subsection 2, Subparagraph 2 is amended to read as follows. 2. The Board of Appeals cannot include a contract building official or an owner, manager, director, officer, or employee of a person that performs building inspections. Section 4, SHMC Section 15.03.020 is amended to read as follows. The building official has authority to enforce Sweet Home Municipal Code Titles 15, 16, and 17. Such enforcement may include, but is not limited to, A, inspections and investigations, B, issuance of stop work orders, C, occupancy violations, D, imposition of civil penalties. Section 5, Expediency Clause. It is hereby adjudged and declared by the Sweet Home City Council that existing conditions are such that this ordinance is needed to be in effect at the time and date of its passage by the City Council and approval by the Mayor, and is hereby declaring an emergency to promote the public health, safety, and welfare. Passed by the Council and approved by the Mayor this blank day of blank 2022. Signed, Mayor, attest City Manager, ex officio City Recorder.
Any questions of council? Okay, I need a directive for second reading.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we move this to second reading.
I'll second that.
A motion second by roll call, please.
Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Richards,
Yes.
Mayor Mahler,
Yes.
Counselor Gerson.
Yes.
I have 6 ayes, no nays, with 1 absent. Approval for second reading on February 8th for ordinance bill number 1 for 2022.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
since the voting was unanimous, you correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, you may have the second reading by title only tonight.
Okay, we could go ahead and do this. Do you need a motion on that? No? Okay.
I don't think so. I mean, you voted in favor just now.
Okay.
Twice, so.
So, okay, we'll go ahead and do, unless there's an objection, a second reading this evening by title only.
Okay. Ordinance Bill number 1 for 2022, ordinance number blank, Sweet Home Ordinance amending certain sections of SHMC Chapter 15.01, Administration and Enforcement Building Code, and SHMC Chapter 15.03, various codes with expediency clause.
Okay, so now for third reading, do we have a motion second for third reading for February 8th?
Mr. Mayor, I move the third reading for February 8th meeting.
Second.
Motion second by roll call, please.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Richards,
Yes.
Mayor Mahler.
Yes. I have 6 ayes, no nays, 1 absent. Moving this for third and final reading by title only on February 8th, ordinance bill number 1 for 2022. Any committee reports? Okay. Mayor's report, and only thing to report, I will be absent on February 8th due to a personal matter. Diane Gerson, the pro tem, will be heading up that meeting. City manager's report.
Very quickly, we do need to schedule an admin finance property committee meeting. So those members can be looking for us to reach out for you on that. We do need to have another executive session in regards to my review. I will be attending a funeral the end of next week. It's either the 3rd or the 4th yet. 3rd or the 4th. It's up in Washington, so I will be out for a couple of days. I'm planning on vacation over spring break. Long story, but I have kids in multiple schools, so I have to spread it out over 2 different weeks. So I'll be gone, it looks like March 18th through the 25th, which means I would not be at the council meeting on March 22nd. And last but not least, today is a very special day. It is somebody's birthday today, and he chose to spend it with us here. So happy birthday to Brandon.
I think we're all aware of the role Brandon plays in our team and how important he is in all of that. And
I think we had a motion earlier. Sing to him.
was there?
I just need a second. Okay, ready? Let's go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Brandon. Happy birthday to you. And many more.
Brandon, baby.
Let's go.
Thank you. Thank you for my rousing birthday rendition.
No cake? What's the deal?
Yeah.
There's cookies later if anybody wants one.
Thank you for the report there, eh?
34.
Now you're lying.
So I am extremely interested to hear how Benny puts that rendition on paper. So, I think we're going to test Benny's writing skills with that. So,
Okay. Department directors reports. Any questions of the directors? Okay, I think Brandon's got a report he wants to talk about.
I do. So at least I think one person on the council will be very happy maybe that we ditch these microphones. But we need something better. We have all experienced issues with these microphones in some fashion or another. We are currently losing. We are down 3 microphones of the original 16 that we have purchased. To be perfectly honest, we went cheap. At the time, it's what we needed. We needed something that would work in a pinch, and now we're paying for that, I guess. But I need to kind of gauge what the council's feelings would be about a somewhat expensive purchase when it comes to microphones. So there are certainly, these types of microphones that cost us probably about $2,000 overall, about $1,000 a set, that last a year or so, and then you're replacing them. Part of the issue with these is the batteries. We've gone through multiple sets of batteries. Obviously, we have issues with actually the push buttons sometimes, and the wireless signal that these use can be hijacked really by any other standard cell phone appliances. By the time we get all the wireless technology in this room, it really messes with the receptions. So we do have issues with them. We've seen instances in which it causes problems in meetings where information can be missed on recordings that can be vital. So what I'm proposing is spending, unfortunately, probably in the ballpark of, we're going to start at about $80,000. Yep, I knew that was going to be a hard pill. But those are going to be for commercial grade microphones that work with this chamber that we won't have to replace on a very regular basis. We've gone down multiple roads with multiple vendors to figure out what might work that will ensure that we'll pick up audio in this room. It's not a price tag I want to bring to you certainly ever. But it is something that I think that we need to invest in for the long term. So I kind of wanted to open that dialogue, get some feedback on that. No pun intended on our existing microphones.
So speaking of microphones, can you push your button, please? Thank you.
Holy cats.
You're getting the hang of it.
So what happened to the ones we used to have that were like, free because we already own them?
So part of it was a need to upgrade the technology to make this council chambers look nicer and not have cables that ran across the floor all the time and became a tripping hazard. That was a desire of the council when we moved here, that we kind of upgrade things and make it look nicer. We could certainly bring them back. Part of the problem with a tabletop microphone like that is competitive sounds. And so it's kind of like a speakerphone. Anything that is kind of louder or other sounds may get drowned out based on what else is happening in the room. And so and then it doesn't necessarily pick up audience members. So what we're looking to build here is a system that their audio will be picked up anywhere in this room. The microphones that we're investigating have more of the traditional use that you find in kind of conference room type setups, which is you push and hold on the button when you want to talk, and when you let go, it mutes. Along with some other technology that kind of fits the modern day audio visual needs for a council setting. These are microphones that you'd find in various council chambers today. Various councils are currently moving towards new technology, such as the city of Salem, Cottage Grove, Millersburg, when they built their new city hall, went through and purchased an expensive setup. I'm all for keeping costs down where possible, but this is an avenue in which you can potentially have missed conversations, missed information, and it could mean the difference between a decision and not. So,
Brandon, are you looking at putting
Can
this
I-
into this year's budget?
Can I make a comment?
Yes, I am looking for. We have
Mhm.
funds that we believe we've identified that we can repurpose to do this, and yeah.
There's a comment wants to be made. Go ahead.
Sorry, Mayor. Thank you. I just want to add that whole group of people that left today, they left because what they heard was the mayor saying that the decision had already been made. So the sound is not carrying to the audience. And what they left, they understood was that the council had not listened to them. So I went out and got them. They came back in, but it was just because the sound isn't good and they weren't able to hear.
This room has to get upgraded in order to make your meetings, your decisions, your voice better recognized in this room and outside of these walls.
It was definitely not what I said, but
No, it's not. Well, and we can hear Julie just fine with these. And I'm sorry, but $1,000 a year for 80 years, that's $80,000 is a lot of money for us for a project, So yeah.
I agree with Councilor Gorley. I mean, 80 grand's a lot. Seems just outrageous.
I have to think about it.
And some of that cost would be the microphones as well as equipment for this room to handle those microphones. So it's not just the microphones. I will make that clear. But if we upgrade these microphones, we've got to have the technology able to take the sound. And we would cut back obviously on what we decided, we, the council, us, thought wasn't really necessary right now. The 80,000 is a high figure. Could come in less, but I couldn't promise that today. But I think you saw in a recent meeting with yourselves and the county commissioners, the board of commissioners, that there's information that can be lost in the translation because microphones weren't working. It doesn't get picked up in audio. It becomes an issue.
So are there more COVID dollars out there that we could apply for to get?
We investigated that with FEMA to attempt to do that, and the short answer is no.
So, Mr. Mayor, so Brandon,
Yes.
if you repurpose that money, are you going to need a budget committee meeting?
No, not per Oregon budget law. Some of what we'd be reappropriating is money that we had set aside for renovating this facility. Due to timing, we don't believe we'll be able to finish everything in this fiscal year as it is. And so it would use existing budget authority, existing expenditure authority to purchase these.
Would there be speakers placed around the room? Is that another part of this?
No, but they would fix these speakers as they currently are so that you don't have feedback issues. Like if you all are talking up here or if Councilor Gorley's talking, the mayor can hear better. So it would fix some of the audio feedback issues we do have.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I got a question. Can you guys hear us clearly?
Well, and I'm sure the masks don't help. I mean, that, you know, but
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'm sorry, Brandon, but I'm a hard no. I don't think that I understand where you're coming from. And while it's important, I just don't think it's the right timing to be upgrading with that amount of money for microphones at all.
can you get what you want for less?
We've done that legwork, and the answer is we can do this, or we can do I'll call it the Cadillac because it's expensive, but there's kind of one of two
Ever
options.
seen anything in middle class?
Not really.
Radio Shack went out of business.
If I thought there was something else that I could bring you, I totally would have, because bringing you an $80,000 bill is certainly not something I enjoy doing,
No,
especially after you just sang me happy birthday.
I've got and on your birthday too.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
right.
So
I got
this
it.
is, I don't take this lightly, certainly, but it's something that we at least have to discuss. And if the answer is that we stick with what we have, we as staff will do our best to make it work. But I cannot promise you 100% all the time with what we have.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, we had a demonstration from a company, and man, they were cool. They had LCD touch screens. You guys could have, when you voted, you touched the touch screen.
We can touch it.
It was really cool. Yes.
I'm almost on board with this.
Well, that quote,
Damn it.
that quote was well over $100,000.
It was actually 160. It was
Yeah.
double what we're doing. So we've done our best to pare down to just
I might be
standard
going out on the reach here. Is there like money, like funding that's coming in, like marijuana money that can somewhat go towards this?
So you allocated $50,000 of the marijuana money towards homelessness, and the rest of it you have placed in the general fund.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't believe it's allocated, correct?
It's part of the overall general fund budget. We don't have excess money coming in this year to be able to allocate for this
I think
purpose.
we addressed that issue though, talking about that we eventually would need it for that because we've got pipe that wherever we put this, we're gonna have to put pipe in the ground and different things, and have security and all of this stuff that comes with it. And so
Yeah, and I'm certainly not advocating taking the homeless dollars
because
that
it
we
wasn't regular
allocated
tax dollars
for this purpose.
And I think it's an easier swallow to buy something like this with regular tax dollars than the other. So I bet. Good try, Mr. Mayor.
I'm trying. It's a lot of money.
Well, and also we're going to put $88,000 into a security person on the homeless camp, so that's another $160,000.
And cameras, yeah, and fencing stuff, and yeah,
Yeah.
to make it appropriate for our community.
So I think where we're at, and we can, if there's additional questions, I can certainly answer them. But I'm kind of hearing a no.
You didn't come tonight prepared with an AED, so I suggest you move on. It's a definite no right now.
Well, maybe you can try to get it in the budget next year.
I'll see what I can do.
We'll
How's
see
that?
what that looks like.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Cancel.
Chief, you got anything on?
Nothing from my standpoint unless there's questions.
I don't think there's any questions. So anything,
Okay,
see,
I got one.
Mr. Attorney.
You just turned it off.
You turned it off.
It was on. Now it's off.
There you go.
Okay, we're just gonna do a redo. It won't take long. How, it says in our charter, however, that any ordinance may be introduced and read the first time at any meeting and may, upon a unanimous vote of all of the members of the council present at the meeting, be read a second time by title only. So you need to vote. It's the vote to read it the second time. Not that it just passed the first time unanimously, but
We did.
you can do that right now.
I thought we
So-
voted twice.
You think we did?
We voted twice.
They voted twice.
Right, but I did.
The issue is the motion was not, was the motion to, was the original motion to read it, have it read twice at this meeting? And I'm not sure that was clear. that what you're?
That's what I'm saying. I thought it was, I didn't think that there was a specific vote, a specific unanimous vote to read it a second time.
Yeah, I brought it up.
There was a vote to make it the second reading, but that motion was originally believing that that it would be at a later meeting. Right. So just to cover our butts, it's probably best to just
Oh,
have a
we-
quick vote.
Okay.
This is my favorite meeting ever. We've said alcohol and butts.
Okay, just for clarification, go ahead and Julie will do a roll call.
So we would need a motion to
Read the ordinance a second time.
read the
And
ordinance
that
a second.
and if that passes by unanimous vote, then Blair's going to read it.
So
you'll have your
moved
two readings
as
tonight.
directed by staff.
I'll second that.
Go ahead, Ray, roll call, please.
I'm sorry, was the second Gerson?
Yes.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Richards.
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez.
Yes.
Counselor Trask,
What was that again? Yes.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Mayor Molly.
Yes.
Sassy.
Let the record show 6 ayes, no nays with 1 absent for the second vote. And then on now go on for third vote on February 8th.
Ordinance Bill number 1 for 2022, ordinance number blank, Sweet Home Ordinance amending certain sections of SHMC Chapter 15.01 Administration Enforcement Building Code and SHMC Chapter 50.03 various codes with expediency clause.
There you go. So we're going to have a February 8th, third reading by title only. Okay? Council business good of order?
Mr. Mayor, may I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you for making the proclamation denouncing racism in the city of Sweet Home. We didn't get to spend very much time on that when you read that, but from me being a person of color, it means a great deal to me and my family, as well as people that come into this community to know that we do not accept that type of behavior. I appreciate the fact that forgiveness was asked for. For me personally, my family has been harmed by racial stereotyping, racial name calling, profiling, and I really appreciate that. I spoke to my daughter when I ran for a city council position that one person could make a change in racism in this community, and I feel as though that I was able to give her my word that I would make that happen. And because you allowed this proclamation for our city council to be said, I'm very proud of this moment in our town. Thank you.
You're welcome. There is no room for racism in this town. None. Anything else? If not, we will adjourn at 8:55.